Hi everyone, welcome back to Lisa's Love and Light. Happy Monday to you all. I hope everyone is doing well and that you guys had a great weekend and that you're taking care of yourself on a daily basis. That's so important. Um, my weekend was quiet and I'm glad for that because I needed to rest, and I'm glad I got some rest. I'm starting to take care of myself a little more, especially when I have that feeling like I feel very lethargic. So I've been taking care of myself and feeling a lot better. So, guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the subscribers, the existing ones and the new ones. It shows that these messages are resonating with you guys, and that's really a good thing. And I'm glad you stopped by because today's message is going to be a little intense. It may even be uncomfortable, but it's important because as I speak out these truths, then they can be rendered powerless. They no longer have a chokehold over me. Like I said, little by little, I'm going to speak about things. I never give specific details or names or anything like that. Remember, we are on YouTube. So also keep in mind that this is a space here where we uplift one another. We're not here to judge, put down, criticize, or none of that, because we have enough of that, guys, in this world we live in today that's spending mostly on misery. A lot of toxicity floating around. So I only take in as little as I need to because, of course, excuse me, guys, we still need to know what's going on in this world, whether on a good or not so good, but we still need to know and be aware. So with that being said, keep in mind, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a social worker or a counselor. I'm someone who talks from a space of truth, from personal experiences that I had to go through, that either I swim or drown, and I choose to swim. I choose to do the work, a lot of hard work to heal, grow, and evolve. And one of my vows is to show up and to help others as I vow to God. That's one of my vows, and I keep that vow as much as I can, along with a few others. They're very important to me. I don't play with God. I make sure I fulfill these vows. And as I do so, God has been taking steps on my behalf. Like I always say in each video, as I take steps, God takes steps behind the scene as He sees me doing the work. This is not a one-man show. It never was that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here right now. So, guys, with that being said, let's get into this message today. And the topic of discussion is, and the truth will set you free. Once again, and the truth will set you free. This was a hard video to do. Well, not the video, but the message, because I had to do an outline before I got on here so that I can cover some important points. And sometimes when I'm speaking, I might not cover them because I think about it after I get off here. Oh, I should have said A, B, C, and D. So I have some notes, so bear with me, guys. Today I'm going to start by talking about my friend Raanda, and I will use her name. She's no longer here, unfortunately. As I said, if you need a catch-up on this, in one or two of my prior videos, I talked about how I've known her since I was 14. She was my best friend. She probably knew me better than anybody else. Probably not the new me today, but the old version of myself. She had 4 children. I've seen them grow up into adulthood. And we both belong to a religious organization that didn't look kindly upon us. I'm going to start with that. In her case, she dimmed her light to make others comfortable. And like I said, I did the same thing for quite some time because I wanted to be looked upon in a different manner, accepted. We, are in the world where we live today where we wanted to be accepted. So, she dimmed her light to make herself comfortable and to bend herself into what they thought she should be, thinking that she would be accepted instead of being treated like a parasite or a disease. And that's how this organization treated her from the day one since she came in with her children, because she had no husband and for whatever other reasons that's unknown to herself or me. She told me, as we had our last conversations before she passed away on October 23rd of last month, just before her birthday, she told me that the worst part of all of this that she went through was how her children were treated, because they had nothing to do with whatever they felt about her. They were treated like a parasite, like a disease, like they didn't belong, from the time that they could talk, walk, and move around. And she used to bring them with her, to these organization meetings, etc. And people would frown up, look at her like she was, like I said, a parasite or a disease. Here's something before I go any further to ponder over, guys. A real religious organization that really represent God will be building up the members of the organization instead of tearing them down. And what I mean, they will provide help for members in their time of need. Such as like certain other organizations, religious organizations that do represent God, they provide help in time of need for members and some non-members, such as soup kitchens, to help people who may, due to no fault of their own, may not have proper housing, food, etc. They provide soup kitchens, food pantries, and sometimes, in case of emergency, help people to pay a bill so that they don't lose their housing or etc. All of these things, because this is what God wants us to do, to help one another. Instead of lining their pockets, I have some notes here, guys, so bear with me. Instead of lining their pockets and building their empires on the backs of the poor, the weak, the broken, the needy, and the broken-minded, and the elderly. You know the difference of organizations that really help, because they will be helping soup kitchens, all these things that I just brought out, and not lining their pockets off the back, blood, sweat, and tears of the poor, the needy, and the weak. They will have a desire to build up instead of tearing down. And this organization that we belong to, never did these things. There was no evidence of it, but yet criticized other organizations that were not like them for doing so. And this is, I don't have the words for this, guys, but moving forward, in Raanda's case, she had 4 children, yes, and no, she wasn't married, etc. We all have something, right? And she had sons. And here's what I was thinking. Perhaps if a male figure within the organization would have offered to spend some time with her sons, knowing that there was no father in the picture, perhaps just spend time with them. It could have made a positive impact on their lives instead of a negative one. Because every time they had to interact with this organization, even from the time they were very young, they knew that they were looked upon as a disease, parasite, like something that should not be. And that's a horrible, horrible way to go through life. And perhaps if they was taken under the wings of someone to help guide and direct them instead of the opposite, things would have turned out different. Perhaps if the higher ups would have allowed some of the members within the organization to help Raanda when she was in need, when she got ill and she needed help, instead of telling them not to help her. I've had more than one conversation with her, and I'm not going to go through all details of everything that I was told, but something that is important here that I'm going to emphasize. Being told by more than a few members that when she asked for help, they were not allowed to help her because it came from the high ups. Don't help her at all. What kind of organization, religious organization, that's supposed to represent God, tells someone not to help somebody in their time of need because they became inactive within the organization? I mean, there are a lot of religious organizations today that have soup kitchens. They don't say, well, you're not a member of this church, so we're not going to feed you. That's not what Jesus did when he was here. When he spoke on Mount Olive and with his 12 disciples there, he was more concerned about feeding the folks that came to see him and listen to him. And this is why he made the miracle of turning the fish into so much fish that it fed the whole crowd that was there, and the bread. Instead of being selfish and, anybody who does things like this, they are not representing God, not the true God anyway. So perhaps she would still be here if they would have gotten her the help she needed in the time that she needed. Instead of telling people not to help her, now she's not here because of it. And, the details of that, which I'm not going to share here, broke my heart. It really made me cry and fall to my knees, because I'm saying this is not godly at all. This is not what God wants. And, it just reiterated to me how people, certain cult-like organizations are lining their pocket off the back, sweat, and tears of the poor, the weak, the elderly, the broken, and the broken-hearted. In any event, this is not how you represent God, because God is a God of love. He wants us to help one another. Think of it this way, guys. God give us grace every day of our life that we don't deserve. None of us deserve it. Let's be honest about it. But he give us that. Why can't humans give that to one another? Helping. And then today's world we live in, they make it look like there's something wrong with you for helping somebody, for opening the door for somebody. Say, how you doing? Are you okay? Oh, that's their problem. Why are you worried about it? Why are you not worried about it? Because wouldn't you want someone to help you in your time of need? God give us grace every day of our life, whether we deserve it or not. Why can't we extend kindness to other people instead of the opposite? And anyone doing the opposite is not really representing God. It doesn't matter how they try to slice it and twist it around. I'm saying all of that because she didn't have to pass away. And the things that she told me will stay with me, and it's just too much, guys. So with that being said, I miss her every day of my life. She was a friend, and now she's gone. And her children, they feel the grief as well. Now, I'm going to tell you guys something, my story of abuse, which is difficult, but I'm going to share that, and why I would never return to this cult-like organization. Without giving specific details or names, I'm going to say this. I have an uncle who is a pedophile and love young girls from the age of 12 up, or maybe 11 and up. I don't know. But all I know that when I was 15, my mom decided to allow him to live with us. And it really wasn't any room for it. She worked at night. I was 15. He was 26. And this is where I started to really change when it comes to this specific religious organization. He was allowed to live there. One night I woke up and he was trying to do something to me. I'm going to leave it like that. And I took an instrument and defended myself. It didn't go as far as, because once I grabbed the instrument, then that was the end of it. Because you can imagine without me saying here on YouTube what was going to happen. He had already for years, with one of my siblings, did something to her for years and threatened her if she revealed what was done. But I wasn't having it. I wasn't going to allow it. I was, it was just traumatic situation. Remember I said things before about what, in prior videos, what happens in this house stays in this house. This is one of the things I'm talking about, because as I speak this out, it has no chokehold on me anymore. I release it. Remember, we need various outlets for the pain so it can pass through us and so it doesn't continue to traumatize our life. So this is one thing I'm talking about without going into specific details. Within this organization, we are not allowed to contact the police because this is a crime. And it wasn't just my sibling, one of my siblings. It was happening to other young girls within the organization. And when I went and said something about it, he was allowed to stay in the apartment for 2 more weeks until he found a place to live. So my parents were not together anymore, and I went to my father and told him what happened. My father went into a rage, and without saying too much here on YouTube, he was going to do something that could have landed him in jail, and I begged him not to do this, begged my father not to. And after a lot of pleading and begging, because I didn't want to see anything happen to my dad, he, I was able to talk him out of this, because he was going to take matters into his own hands. Even though he had, how do I say this? So even though this organization had the proof of what this uncle was doing, they did nothing about it. And and I talked about going to the police, the file, because this is a crime. And I was told that if I did that, I would be excommunicated. I've never heard of anything. What? So we're harboring a pedophile and trying to keep it quiet. And then the organization told me that they were going to handle it, but they never did anything about it. Even though my other sibling came forward and I came forward, just because we wasn't in the same room talking about our experience of what happened, they decided they were not going to do anything. And what I tried to tell the sibling, they had no intention of doing anything because they heard your side of what happened to you, etc., and me. And he was allowed to stay there 2 more weeks until he found a place. And I was just, this is not how this is supposed to go. I was 15 years old, guys. I started having problems in school and everything, and I was going to drop out because it was so traumatizing. Because I couldn't sleep, I was having nightmares, all types of stuff. And my father was the one who stepped up to the plate to make sure I graduate. You're going to school, you're going to do what you're supposed to do, etc. Because if it wasn't for him, I don't know what would have happened. But he stepped up to help me be there, make sure I was okay, even though they were separated. However, moving forward from that, at the age of 23, when I stepped outside the organization and had what they call a forbidden relationship, and also with a non-member of their, I was excommunicated for it. And I didn't even really sit with them to talk to them about it. I had talked to somebody else about it, who I guess, you got to be careful who you talk to today, because, they went to tell on me. But you know what, guys, when I look back at that, before I say that, does anybody see the double standard here? So I was excommunicated, and I'm looking at the double standard here. We got a pedophile over here who's doing things to young girls. Nothing's happening. You call the police, you're going to get excommunicated. But because I stepped outside and had a relationship, I get, so I'm laughing at it a little bit today because it's years ago. when I was 23, but it wasn't funny at the time. I what I've learned from that is I was always a threat to this organization because I questioned their rules, guidelines, and regulations, which they hated because they had no answers for the questions that I asked. And they would just dismiss me, you know? And I was considered the black sheep who marched to a different different beat of the drum. I was always considered that by family, by them, and I could never do anything right in their eyes. I was no different in their eyes than how Raanda was treated. She was treated a whole lot worse than me, but, I was not too far from behind her. I never thought that being casted out would become a blessing and testimony to me today to help others, because all these things helped me to heal, grow, and evolve. And it took me a long time because I went through all these experiences. Remember, guys, I tell you that life happens. People, places, circumstances, and situations happen for a reason, season, lifetime, or a lesson. And a lot of these things were unlearned lessons. And all these toxic people come in my way, bringing me toxic love and problems and situations. And then that end, and you go to another, and it's, over and over and over again. And, and I start to look at this and really at one point start to feel like maybe something is wrong with me or something. And then as 2020 approached, that's when my life changed forever. Like I talk about it in prior videos way back. Everything, people were dying like flies. My dog died, my mother died, several people in the family died, people at the church died, and it just went on and on. And even a neighbor where I live died. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And then things were just falling apart in my life, down to the ground, to the bare wire. And I started praying, asking God to help me, because I didn't understand what was going on. But if anybody knows what the dark night of the soul is, that's what I went through, because I was too subservient, too giving to the wrong people. And people were there to take, use me up like a doormat, And when they were done with me, throw me to the side like you do roadkill. Over and over, and I wasn't learning a lesson. I kept repeating, different person, same scenario, over and over until God set me down to show me what people were really doing. And as I saw that no one was there for me at my darkest time of the need, and these people who said, yeah, I got your back, I'm here for you, etc., they were nowhere to be found. And if you called them up, they had 1,000 reasons why they couldn't be there. And being there doesn't, and I'm not talking about financially, supporting you when you go through like death after death, and just, they didn't have time. Oh, well, sorry, hear that, bye, gotta go, And I started to see that these people were there to get what they can and to go their way. And I had to work hard. I started with therapy, guys. I said I need to see a therapist because my mental and physical health was being affected. Everything was falling apart. And as I started to do the work, it took a long time because me and my therapist just sat and looked at each other. Okay, time up. All right, gotta go. Because I didn't trust anybody or anything. And okay, I'm here, I don't know what to do, because in my family, we don't do therapy. You know why, guys? Because what happens in this house stays in this house. Well, if what happens in this house stays in this house, how can anybody grow, heal, and evolve? You can't, because you're stuck and stagnated in a pain. It has no place to go. And they don't believe in therapy. They think something's wrong with you if you do therapy. However, it is, your mental and physical health is being affected by these toxic situations. You have to heal from the inside out in order to grow, heal, and evolve. And then eventually acquire that inner peace. And it took me a while because I kept repeating lessons and they were getting worse and worse. So once I got connected with the therapist, probably about after 4 months or so, I really started to talk, because we started to talk about a pro and con list. What are these folks, it doesn't matter, family, whoever, what are they bringing to your table? Do a pro and con list. And I started to realize I'm bringing everything. They just here to take. And I'm just giving. And so I learned that I had to stop being subservient to other folks and their needs and start to focus on my needs and wants. Because my needs and wants were neglected and put up in a closet somewhere. I had to take it out and say, okay, I choose me. Whatever everybody else want to do, that's on them. But right now I'm choosing me because I need to take care of me so I don't fall apart anymore. And it wasn't easy. It was a lot of work, guys, going back and forth, and it's not easy. It wasn't easy. But I cried a lot. I don't even know what else to say about it, but all I know I had to work hard. And like I talk about that metaphor of the elephant in the room, I had to look at that elephant in the room. It was growing bigger than me. And, and when I describe that, I'm talking about the pain. And I had to look at it, address it head on, the pain and everything, in order to grow and heal. And I had to learn how to do things differently, to put myself first, how to say no, because I didn't know how to do that, and I had to learn. And people were, arguing, fighting, whatever. And I got to the point as I got stronger, stayed in prayer, asked God to help me. I started cutting off, blocking, deleting all these folks because they were disrespecting, dismissing my boundaries, etc. and so forth. Okay, well, it's time to say goodbye. And it wasn't easy. The first couple of times when I talked to my therapist about it, I was crying, uncomfortable. And he said, what are they bringing to the table, the pro and con list? And when I did it, they wasn't bringing anything. They had the hand out for something. And so I had to cut off, block, and delete and choose myself. I never thought being casted out would become my blessing and testimony to help myself to heal, grow, and evolve, and to help others to do the same. I refuse to continue to allow others to try to mold me or shape me into what they think I should be. A negative stereotype, which I'm nothing of that. I had to learn to heal, cut off everything that was not for my highest good. And I learned to be my authentic self. I also, people, which is important, tell your story before somebody else tell it. Because when they do, they're going to add their seasoning of lies to it. So make sure to tell your story before they do. And you know what I mean by that. People will add stuff that you don't even know where it came from. So my advice is to heal, raise your vibrations, cut off what no longer serves your life, and speak your truth. Walk in it. Speak your truth. You don't have to give details of specifics. Never really do that. But speak your truth, because as you do, that's part of the healing process. It's an outlet for that pain. It doesn't matter what the naysayers are saying, the haters, etc. They're going to always have something to say, whether you're walking or running or whatever. They're going to always have something to say. I tune that noise out now, because that's all it is noise. The truth will always come out. So, raise your vibration, guys. Cut off what no longer serves your life. Learn to turn that pain into power. Power into purpose. Purpose into paying it forward to help yourself as you help others. Because one day your testimony might save somebody's life. That's the message today, guys. And also, I want to say, never give up on yourself. Please take care of yourself on a daily basis. Take time out, an hour or two, to just do you, what uplifts you. And never mind about the rest. One day at a time, one step at a time. Thank you, guys. Please invite others here to hear this message, and it's important to keep moving forward. And, once you close these doors to what no longer serves you, God is going to open up new doors as you ask him to help you, as you take steps and do the work. He'll open up new doors with blessings behind them. And I'm speaking from experience. So I don't care about the noise and what people say, because they don't know who the new me is today. They are basing everything on an old version of an old subservient version of myself that no longer exists. So the other stuff doesn't matter to me. I just keep moving forward. You know, guys? So please keep showing up here to hear these messages, because some of the messages will resonate with you on certain days, you know, and perhaps something I say here will be beneficial to your own circumstances that you may be going through. Invite others to do the same. Subscribe to the channel, and hit that like button, and you guys can comment. Make sure the comments are respectable here. Thank you so much, guys. There's going to be some links at the end of this video. Take a look at them and see if there's something there that is of interest to you. Once again, this is Lisa, shedding love and light. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you sometime tomorrow. Bye for now, guys.